probably wondering why it is I am so unhappy and what the suffering servant means. Why it isn't just Jesus, it is Jesus and it is Ben David. Because all the epithets of Jesus are all the realigned epithets of Hermes, Pan, Ben David. Ben David is the suffering servant, Kalki in Hinduism, Maitreya in Buddhism. The reason why is because A, my mum and dad have died. My mum recently of COVID, my dad in 1999, and I don't have anyone in my life, family-wise whatsoever. And that is a massive problem because I don't understand family units anymore. It's only been 4 years since he died. Secondly, if you read the beginning of Isaiah 53, and servant, by the way, is just another word for minister. You can think of it as minister. It's not a pejorative servant. Lots of the prophets were servants as well. If you read it, it starts off and you understand where I'm coming from. So he's afflicted. That specifically mentions David. King David is talking about himself in Isaiah 53. Because if you look at the notes, it says it's about Psalm 122. Now, David was possibly a white-skinned, ginger-haired man. Right, that's what the Jews believe, and it's even mentioned in the Bible that he was ruddy, and that he had a pale-skinned, red-haired lover in Bathsheba. Now, he was so upset over the enemies that he had. Now, I am brown, as you can see, but I have the same enemies, and they're saying the same things, and it's not just the people in my community, it's the media, it's LBC, it's BBC, it's all the actual radio stations, and I have got the evidence. Now, it says he's afflicted, he's got a mental illness. I do have a mental illness, right? It's not a major mental illness in that I am high functioning, but you can think of it as basically like bipolar. But it's like that, and I don't hear any voices, don't have anything. It's basically just paranoia that I suffer from. Now, the paranoia is an illness, but it's caused by persecution. So if you read the story of, say, Loki, right, you'll understand that Loki was in fact persecuted by all the other gods, especially his brother and other brothers' families. But when it talk about, so he's afflicted, so people that look at me who are responsible, caring, loving adults, right, they'll see me as a human being, a man, someone who's possibly attractive to them, right? But to 1/3 of the population of Britain, I'm in fact the most ugly man they've ever seen. And this is what's happening on LBC in the radio. They are making fun of me. Now, the reason why they're doing it, they're using code words, right? They're using all the words of popular culture. So Christians like J.K. Rowling, who is a Christian, believes in Ben David, Harry Potter, right? Christians like Taylor Swift believe in Ben David, right? They call them Superman, Harry Potter, the Incredible Hulk, right? Blackadder, Mr. Bean, they're all the same characters. Mr. Darcy of Pride and Prejudice, they all do it. You know, Jane Austen was definitely probably a Christian. And you don't have to watch all these shows to know that they're all based upon the Jewish Messiah, right? Skywalker, Kylo Ren, they are based upon Adam, and they're based upon the Jewish Messiah. And they're largely written by people who are either Jewish or Christian, especially Superman, written by Jews, Batman, written by Jews, Star Wars, Jews, Harry Potter, Christian, popular culture. The majority of artists in the UK are either, they used to be, like the Beatles, majority kind of Christian, then they've become, a lot of them are pagan, like Florence from Florence and the Machine, they're pagan, but they believe in Loki. So all the main religions talk about it. So you just go through Isaiah 53. He had no comeliness that we could think of, right? How many people think that someone like Fishy Rishi, right, was handsome to begin with, and by the end of his premiership, right, he was the most ugly man ever? How many people look at these Rotherham grooming gangs and think, some of them, they look like me, some of them, don't they? Right? How ugly are they in people's minds? How ugly are Asian people in a racist person's mind? Right? You can think of nationalism, what we've got now, populism in the UK, in America, in Israel. You can think of that as white man phallic penis worship, because that's what it is. Men and women who worship Apollo's penis, right? Which is actually it actually is his penis. It's the Cleopatra's needle, the obelisk, that is actually Apollo's penis, right? So they literally worship that. So that's what nationalism is. It's the worship of the male identity or male organ. Now, specifically in Europe and in the Middle East, within Israel, of the white man. So what we have are an entire ideology that a lot of people watching this video won't understand. They won't understand the ideology of how you get from white worship of nationalism to then a faction of it being fascism. And if you read 1984, you'll understand that there's a perpetual war, which is National Socialism, right? Which is what we have in the UK right now. It is socialism. INSOC is the 1984 government is socialist. Just like if you Google the National Socialist Movement of America, if you Google it, you'll find that they are in fact Nazis. So you go on their website, the socialists, and then underground they are in fact Nazis, and all their forums are Nazism. So even though there are people, good people in America who are socialists, that believe in equality and identity politics, the people at the top, not all of them, not Keir Starmer, the majority of people at the top who control them in the deep state, they are in fact Nazis. And so you can in fact paint a picture of me. Say for instance, Simon from In Between This right now, without my beard, and if I've not got my hair the way it is, right, I look like him. I've even been called that in Nottingham, and I have been called. Just went to Toton, where I live, to the Tesco, and I just had two grown-up men. They probably were police officers, right? I am getting followed. They called me Harry Potter, right? Not just because I've got glasses, right? They wouldn't call that to an Asian man or a black man unless it really was. I know it does go around, it's just a funny thing, wearing glasses, like, but the amount of times they're doing it on radio is unreal. So you'll have people ringing up on LBC talking about Rome. We need to have Rome. You've got statistics where young people say they actually want a dictator. You've got people ringing in, just they're not even real. You see, to prove it to you, right, have a look at the comments on YouTube, and what you'll find is that a lot of the people like Joe 849683, They're not real people. They're actually robots, right? And there are millions of these robots. And you have a look at how racist they are. You go on GB News as comments, right? And you see what they're talking about. You have a look what they're talking about. It's all far right Nazi ideology. So I don't know who's funding it, right? But it looks as if it's coming from America, and it looks as if there's a higher power at will here, right? I don't know who it is. I don't know who's funding it, but we do know that Elon Musk is of that elite, right? He has just so you understand how fascist society is, right? Whenever you've got a X within a O, right? Like the Xbox logo, like the X logo on Twitter, you have this all around the world. What you'll find is that is in fact the Antichrist Apollo's mark, right? So X is a symbol for Apollo, and then the O. You even see this in the Catholic Church, right? Within communion, right? The X and the O. It means Apollo, right? Now, Elon Musk is actually dressed up as Baphomet before as well, which is a combination of Hermes, Pan, and Venus, which is basically devil worship. Now, to understand that the devil is not actually who you think he is, right? The devil is two people in the Bible. So in the Revelation, devil is Satan, who is Zeus, right? Apollo's father. In everyone else's mind, right? He's the man that has horns. He is Lucifer, right? They are two separate people. So what popular culture has done has made Pan. So you see it in, like, for people who think the videos are boring, right? Look at the Divinals. I touched myself, right? It's all about Pan, right? He's the sexual god. If you look at Taylor Swift and you look at you just look throughout the whole discography of Taylor Swift, right? There's one video where she's dressed as a schoolgirl and she's basically trying to make out with Harry Potter, who doesn't want to get with her, right? She got a song called Superman where she dreams about getting with him, right? And it puts people off that this person isn't actually a functional male, as it were. You know, I've had lots of lovers. I've been married, right? But to the untrained eye, I am just like Simon from In-Betweeners. I'm a geek, right? Making these videos and stuff. And that's how people see me. And in psychology, I've got a master's degree. People think that that's Luciferian. Because when you look at Mr. Darcy, who is Lucifer, dressed in black, you see what it is, right? If you watch The City of Angels, you're watching Lucifer. Lucifer fell from heaven to make love with a pretty girl, right? Specifically, a pale-skinned, blonde-haired woman, Persephone Eve, right? That's why he fell. Now, it's also theologized as pride. But if you watch City of Angels and you listen to Google Doll's Iris, you're probably going to cry, because that's all of us. Adam is all men. Persephone, Eve, is all women, right? We are represented by those two people. So so even though you have a faction of people, the nationalist fascists, right? Not all nationalists are fascists, but they are becoming like Apollo, not Trump, right? not necessarily Elon Musk. These people are businessmen and they're just imperfect. But, you know, I could give you a million people in popular culture. Mr. Bean, for instance, is an alien, you know. The very first beginning of it, you'll see in the cartoon, he is just like, he comes from a ship and there he is, like this alien, right? Superman is in fact an alien. But don't worry and think that, you know, Superman's, you know, if you've ever watched Superman, you'll understand that he came from another world. And so he fell. He fell to this world. And he fell because of women, because he loves them. And as Isaiah 53 says, in the second part, that you'll have children. He literally says you'll have offspring. Doesn't sound like Jesus to me. And then it says what all Christians understand to be the crucifixion. And it's true. King David in Psalm 122 is talking about his enemies, and then he's poetically speaking about being ripped apart and crucified. And that was a parallel with Jesus, because everything that David was a parallel of Jesus. And that's why Jesus says he's the son of David, to rectify, realign David. But David was a reincarnation of Adam. And if you don't believe in these parallels, right, just understand that on an emotional level, I could tell you all these things, right? I could tell you mathematically how it works out too. Because in the theory of the mandala, which is a perfectly symmetrical shape, this is the symmetrical nature of the universe. So even though I've done no wrong in this life, like it says in Isaiah 53, he is righteous, I am getting the punishment for what Adam did. And I'm getting the punishment for Joseph, the patriarch, and David. So I'm getting all these punishments at once. That's why I'm a scapegoat, just like Jesus. And I look exactly like Hermes. Have you ever seen a picture of Hermes, right? You have a look at the old paintings, right? And he's not a white man. He looks exactly like me. In fact, he's naked in these pictures, right? And he looks exactly like me. and then you look at the other gods and you'll find they look exactly like my family. And I mean exactly. And even though I don't have any real family now, my mum and dad have died, I do have other family members, and they are them. But they're the avatars of them, right? Let's just stick with my mum and dad, right? Let's just talk about Superman, right? Have you seen how Superman is bullied and prejudiced against, and yet all they can't see, right? The women don't like Clark Kent, you know. They find him attractive, but going beyond attraction, Lois Lane doesn't find him attractive at all. He takes his glasses off, right? And even though I can't see properly now, he becomes someone different. I am someone different without, beyond this camera. I am a sexual being. I am a man. I am like, you know, tits and ass kind of guy. I like women, like, you know, and I joke about it, and I can be profane like Blackadder. But people don't see that in Asian people, you know. They don't see that. They see Fishy Rishi, they see the geek, they see the guy from the Big Bang Theory. They see that even in Hollywood, like they'll have like the most racist things you've ever seen. Like I remember watching one movie with a friend, and it was like this black guy was like, "Oh my god, that guy's Asian as hell." the amount of racism that used to happen within Hollywood movies, and now it's largely going away. And then with all this DEI stuff, it did actually go too far with certain people, but doesn't mean that you can then say DEI is rubbish and that we shouldn't have ethnic people in society at the top. But there are, for every person that will say, which is the majority, that this is rubbish what Trump is saying, there are people like the mayor of Chicago and people at COVID, people who were black and ethnic, people at the top, who doctors and stuff, who were completely satanic and evil, and they should never have been at the top. Well, I just heard it on LBC, right? So they're talking about Pride and Prejudice. They just talked about it in a different way. It wasn't referring to me. So this man, Mark Darcy, he's not Mark Darcy, it's Mr. Darcy. I don't know his first name, but they say that in Bridget Jones. It's the same character, by the way. Bridget Jones is the same person, same character. So it's even the same in Grey's Anatomy. So Mr. Shepherd, who is the other boyfriend in Bridget Jones' Baby, that's the same character. So why does Elizabeth Bennet hate him, who is playing Eve? Why does she hate him, right? He comes across as stuck up, a man of wealth, a man wearing black, who is proud and prejudiced, right? And that's every man. It literally is every man. That's what Hermes is, right? Every man. But it's personified in me. So at the start, and you'll see this in Love Story with Taylor Swift, right? That is Mr. Darcy. Is that he doesn't know how to dance properly, right? He doesn't have what Mr. Wickham has, which is that, Paul McCartney, like, straight away, hi, how you doing? Like, you're beautiful. Like, I want to talk to you. What a lovely dress. You've got a great manner. He's not like that to begin with, right? And I didn't do it just justified there, because doing it on camera is completely different from doing it in real life, right? So all along, you think through Elizabeth's eyes that this man's a stuck-up prat, and then you realise that he's in love with this woman more or less from like the third or fourth scene, and that he doesn't know how to dance. He doesn't know how to conduct himself in public, right? All his friends stick up for him, and Elizabeth believes all the gossip. And she's not to blame for believing this gossip. It's what the majority of people think. He is a despicable man. And then there's this rumour that he's gone and stolen Mr. Wickham's wife. But Mr. Wickham was always the liar. And it's totally relevant to today, because Mr. Wickham actually was basically a paedophile. He tried to get with Mr. Darcy's underage sister, and he ran away with her. So this is literally what's happening. You've got a whole system coming from America, I believe, people associated with Musk, who are financing these bots to talk about Asian men as being paedophiles. Now, I went to a hairdresser's about 8 months ago, and there I was, and I had my cap on, right? And when I've got my cap on, I look very urban, as you've seen in my videos. I look very urban. I look like an urban guy, street kind of like rapper, right? Now, all I was doing was just minding my own business, right? Basically watching someone getting their hair cut, and about 4 white